ICE is back doing their job effective today. They haven't been able to do it for years.
Well, I'm going to follow up on that in 1 second, but who is ICE going after right now? I know that you and others said several times that it is the people who pose the biggest public safety threat to Americans who would be approached and deported first. Is that still the case?
Yes, people in the country illegally that have a criminal conviction that makes them a public safety threat. That's our priority.
How are you finding them?
Again, these ICE officers across the country have a 90-10 docket. They know who these people are. When they don't show up in court, they fail to leave as ordered by an immigration judge, or they have, NCIC information on someone who's arrested for a violent crime here that's in the country illegally. They take those leads, they do investigative work, and through that work, try to find out where these people may be located, and that's the whole investigative piece they do before they go out and actually make an arrest.
The issue of border security has often been a polarizing topic, but under the leadership of the Trump administration, the approach has shifted dramatically. From a pledge to secure the southern border to deploying ICE agents with renewed vigor, the goal remains clear. Public safety is the cornerstone of their operations.
In the last 24 hours, ICE arrested over 308 serious criminals. Some of them were murderers, some of them were rapists, some of them raped a child, some were a sexual assault of a child. So ICE is doing their job, and they're prioritizing just as the president said they would.
While the initiative focuses on the worst offenders, the strategy has also highlighted the broader enforcement of immigration law. Sanctuary cities, often criticized for refusing to cooperate with federal authorities, are now facing a stricter crackdown.
When you release a public safety threat back in the community, that puts the community at great risk of crime, and it puts our officers at great risk, because now they got to arrest the bad guy in his truck who has access to who knows what weapons, and it puts the public at risk. For God's sakes, these sanctuary cities, let us into your jail. We're just trying to help public safety in your community. Help work with us, because you force us in the community. Here's what's going to happen. We'll find the bad guy, but when we find him, he's going to be with others that may not be a criminal priority. But guess what? If they're in the United States illegally, they're going to be arrested too.
The logistical challenges of deportations also come into play. For years, some countries have refused to accept deportees, creating an additional layer of complexity. However, the administration promises action.
Countries won't take their citizens back under this president, because this president has vowed that these countries will take them back. So I'll leave that up to the White House, but there will be negotiations with those countries who are pushing back on recalcitrancy, and they will be removed.
Public safety, national security, and a firm stance against illegal immigration converge in this renewed effort. The administration's approach, including the use of military support at the border, is seen as both necessary and effective.
Consequences are being delivered. The crackdown has begun. President Trump could deploy actually as many as 10,000 active duty troops to the southern border. And while they may not engage in law enforcement, they will be engaging in protecting our border, including the use of military transport planes for deportation flights. Now, a Marine official telling Fox News this, quote, "Our response will be immediate. We are going in ready to respond. If the cartels shoot at us, we will not stand by. We will be taking whatever equipment we would send if a Marine Expeditionary Unit or MEU were deploying overseas." Now, the 1,500 soldiers and Marines deploying right now represent a 60% increase from the already 2,500 that are there.
Despite the controversy surrounding these measures, proponents argue they are vital to maintaining the rule of law. With ICE agents off the leash, as one official put it, this chapter in U.S. immigration enforcement underscores a broader national debate on sovereignty, security, and humanity.
So ICE deportation operations have officially begun, with the focus on immediate threats to public safety. It comes as border state Arizona introduced their ICE Act, would officially require the state to comply with ICE detainers, but the state's AG speaking out against the president's plan.
I also will not have any part of and will fight the attempt to set up what I believe are essentially concentration camps and family separation camps in the state of Arizona.
As ICE resumes its targeted deportation efforts, state and federal tensions are once again in the spotlight. Arizona's stance against compliance with ICE detainers underscores the political divide surrounding immigration enforcement. While federal officials argue that compliance ensures public safety and reduces community risk, detractors frame these actions as punitive and inhumane, sparking debates about the ethics and implications of immigration policy on a state level.
Under President Biden, we've had a record number of people die crossing that border. 600% increase in sex trafficking. And look at the 250,000 young Americans dead from fentanyl. When we secured the border, the fentanyl deaths has decreased. Sex trafficking has decreased. Deaths on the border decreased. So it's just about saving lives. Secure borders save lives. And plus, look, you can't have strong national security if you don't have border security.
This sobering statistic highlights the human cost of a porous border. The connection between drug trafficking, human exploitation, and weak border enforcement is undeniable. Advocates of these measures emphasize that securing the border is a critical step toward addressing these grave social issues.
The Biden administration is hiding the numbers. If you look at those removal numbers, over 80% were Border Patrol apprehensions on the border that were immediately removed. They weren't ICE removals. So if you look at what ICE has done in the interior of the United States under 4 years of President Biden, they have the lowest numbers of removals in the history of the agency, despite a historic illegal crisis on the southern border. So they can claim 240,000, whatever removals. That's simply not the fact. And under the Trump administration, were there fewer removals? Yes. And why was that? Because we secured the border. We weren't releasing millions of people in the United States to have to go find and remove.
Critics of the previous administration's approach argue that it prioritized optics over actual results. The current ICE operations, they say, represent a return to meaningful enforcement. By focusing on interior removals rather than just border apprehensions, the strategy reflects a shift toward sustainable immigration control.
What's happening on our border is the biggest national security vulnerability I've seen in my career, and I've got over 35 years doing this. We need to take action to secure the border, and we'll discuss the other policies down the road, but right now it's all about securing the border and saving lives.
The narrative of border security transcends politics and policy. For seasoned officials, it's a matter of national defense and public safety. The administration's focus on this vulnerability underscores the urgency of their actions, framing immigration enforcement as a critical component of the country's security infrastructure. Throughout this discussion, we've explored the critical actions being undertaken by the Trump administration to address border security and immigration enforcement. From the reinvigoration of ICE operations to the deployment of military resources at the southern border, it's clear that the approach focuses on prioritizing public safety and restoring the integrity of immigration laws. We've learned that ICE agents are no longer constrained as they target the most dangerous criminals, including those with violent histories, while also upholding their oath to enforce the law without exception. Sanctuary cities, which have been a significant source of contention, are facing increased scrutiny. The administration has emphasized the risks posed by releasing dangerous individuals into communities and has taken measures to ensure federal law is upheld, even if it means escalating confrontations with local governments. These policies not only aim to protect communities but also serve as a warning that cooperation with federal immigration authorities is no longer optional. We've also seen how this enforcement extends beyond U.S. borders. Through diplomatic pressure and the threat of economic consequences, the administration is addressing the challenges of deporting individuals to countries resistant to accepting their citizens. This international dimension is a reminder that the issue of immigration is as global as it is local. On a broader scale, the human cost of a weak border policy has been laid bare. A staggering increase in sex trafficking and the proliferation of fentanyl underscore the urgency of securing the border. The administration's efforts are framed as not just enforcing laws, but actively saving lives by preventing the exploitation of vulnerable populations and combating the flow of deadly drugs into the country. Ultimately, this narrative is about redefining national security and sovereignty. Border Czar Tom Homan and others have made it clear that securing the border is non-negotiable, both for the safety of U.S. citizens and the integrity of the nation's laws.
I want to save lives. Secure border saves lives. And when President Trump locks this border down, less women and children be sex trafficked in this country. Less aliens would die making that journey.
What do you think about the balance between immigration enforcement and community impact? Share your thoughts in the comments.